Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Neshi, for hosting the Spiritual Mysteries of Life. I want to thank some of my spiritual mentors this morning. It's a day when I thought about them, and last night when I was working up my meditations and things, I thought of Ann Lumsden, who was the first person that I had met in the awakening of my spiritual and guidance. She was a spiritualist and a wonderful person. And Nellie Kane, who was a metaphysical teacher, and just such a beautiful soul. And of course, my mom, who was always watching over and protecting me, and is still today. My dad has been like a sentinel to me and watching the door. And I am truly blessed. Also, I want to mention Denise Francisco, who has been my teacher of Reiki and getting me back on my spiritual path. And a new friend and teacher here in Florida is Magdalene. And of course, all of you. You are my teachers as well. So with that, let's take the journey of the soul. Our consciousness, each one of our souls are an exciting and rewarding spiral of unfoldment. Each upward step brings greater awareness and expanded realization of the beauty and precision of this universe and of the progressive states within it. As each one of us works upon the various levels and absorbs the lessons we experience, we grow in our consciousness, we raise our vibration frequency, and this qualifies us to move forward and upward to our soul's journey. So as we start our journey, we know that we have lessons to learn. Just as a child must pass through each grade in school, it is important that each one of us needs to make the most of the opportunities and learn our lessons well. Otherwise, we will be required to repeat many lessons while working upon our problems until we have them understood and solved. Now, during our journey, we will experience earthly expressions through a wide range of experiences. And each step we take must be experienced and absorbed. There can be no side steps, no cheating, for this is our progress of what? Of becoming. These experiences should not be just the intellectual understanding. It is our goal that each soul must achieve. Achieve what? The becoming. Only when we do this, our soul is liberated and free to function in the higher dimensions. What are the necessary steps, you ask? Of being, to bring about that raising of our vibration to that higher potential. Well, first and foremost, you have to believe that you are a physical being inside a physical body. We have been taught through all ages that we are separate from our divine source. And what do? We spend most of our time taking care of our body, our physical body, and very little consideration to our true purpose for being here. Our lives are so busy that we don't have time to give our soul the attention that it needs. Why is that? We've always been taught, take care of the physical. First, we need to process the becoming of who you are, to be awakened that you are a spiritual being. Now, today, forever. It's not, you were a spirit yesterday. You're a spirit being. You're not, we have the physical body, and we recognize that because we can feel it. Our five senses tell us that. Now, if you withdraw the spirit from the body, nothing's left but physical matter, which reverts back to the elements. And then you say, what is it that causes us to breathe? Our body, our blood to circulate, our body functions to process and to function, all with no awareness. It's there. It just happens. Well, think about it. It can only be what? Your indwelling spirit, the real inner self, which is connected to the divine. Our process and dependent, our process is, we're all dependent on each other. And our willingness and our ability to identify ourselves with that indwelling spirit, it's important that we recognize it in each other. And when we are able to completely make this identification, then we recognize our higher consciousness. And once we become aware of our spiritual nature, we can then apply a conscious effort to accelerate on your spiritual journey. Now, prior to our becoming, we were the slave of our possessions and emotions. And with a new understanding, we begin to want to free ourselves from the shackles of fear and misunderstandings. And when you do this, you will catch a glimpse of a better self, one of these yaha moments, which will bring peace and happiness, and it will exist. Once you have reached the understanding and apply the laws, which will bring greater realization, blessings be, your feet are on the path. Now, as we work to erase all those old negative thoughts and patterns and habits and replace them with positive and constructive ideas, you will advance step by step until you achieve your goal. It's just, that's how it works. Sometimes this will be a long and oftentimes discouraging road. How many times does one think that you have considered some fault? Oh, I've got this conquered. No problem. Perhaps you had some jealousy or some selfishness, only to have it rear its ugly head. Oh, if we persist and earnestly strive to identify ourselves with our divine center, your divine center, we will gradually establish ourselves into a new level of consciousness, and another step has been taken on the path or your road. So let's talk about the road a second. You're driving down the road, you're walking down the road, whichever way you want to be. Oh my gosh, you fall off the road and you're in the pucker bush. Oh, how did I get down here? And you're looking around and you're saying, now how do I get out of this? And you think, oh, I don't want to get a pricker. So you very carefully then reconstruct your thought process to all positive things and forget that negative business, because that's not going to do you any good. So you push yourself forward and you think, okay, And where do you take yourself? You take yourself to your inner spirit, your divine self, and you say, okay, I think I can get it. Oh, boom, you're back on the road. And you're saying, oh, I made it. That's a lesson learned. So then you speed up and you think, okay, I got this whipped. Guess what? You'll be off in the pricker bush again if you're not careful. So it's a learning process. So in your consciousness, we're going to talk about some elementary things here. And I don't want you to get discouraged about this, but sometimes you just have to think about that. And let's think about the nature of our consciousness. Consciousness is the innate, that which knows. Our consciousness knows. It's infinite. How is that? It's because the number of levels according to evolution. We just know it. It is what causes the electrons to combine with the proper combination of the forms of the atoms and turn the forms of molecules into cells, and all according to the pattern of the element which is being brought into manifestation. You think about that for a second. It is what causes, think about this, the tree or the flower to proceed from the seed to the blossom. It is that which causes the bird to grow within the egg and then hatch and instantly migrate as it's needed to change its environment. It causes the bee to gather the nectar and to convert it into honey, and the butterfly to emerge from its cocoon. It causes the animal to care for its young, and each species to promulgate itself. It causes our blood to circulate, our lungs to breathe, our body to possess the functions, and our minds to comprehend. It is that which we know and causes all things to be. Why is it? It's been eons of time. This consciousness has evolved. All things through which it now expresses. And we see it at work in everything. But you know what? We are prone to think of it as operating only through what we can comprehend through our five senses. It is not reasonable to assume that it is also operating upon a much higher levels that we can perceive. Think about that. If it operates throughout all physical and mental manifestations, why can't it operate in frequencies beyond those which we presently are aware of in our five senses? It seems that we're safely assume that it does, and it is into these that we progress as we travel the path, as we take each step and attain a new level of consciousness. We become that which we are, and we enter into a new state of being. Just remember that it is only in consciousness that we can experience anything. That's what the topic today is about, is our consciousness. If we are not aware of a certain event, so far as we're concerned, it hasn't happened. But when we learn of the incident, it becomes reality. The mineral is not aware of the higher form of vegetable life, for it has never experienced that degree of consciousness. The vegetable is not aware of the higher form of the animal life, and the animal life is not aware of powers of man. As long as man is functioning in the limited consciousness now, and I'm saying that, in the limited consciousness of a material and in an emotional, you are become the emotional slave. I said that earlier. But you must, he's not aware of the higher levels of his spiritual existence. But one thing man has, one thing that we have that's greater over the lower species in life. He has been endowed with the self-consciousness and what? The power to reason. You can recognize the fact that you are not only physical, but you are spiritual as well. And you can then take the necessary steps to develop your awareness to the higher aspect of your nature, your spirit. And as you become more acutely aware of and more finely attuned to your divine center, you will experience moments of great revelations and illumination. And you notice that I said, your divine center. Nobody else's, just yours. Just as the animal is a higher form of life than the vegetable, and man is the higher form of the animal, so is the realm of the spirit higher than the physical of man. So how limited would we think ourselves if we were suddenly forced in the function of the condition of an animal? Now I'm going to share some stories a little bit at this point. Is that I had a beautiful she wasn't little, beautiful German Shepherd. And we used to spend a lot of time together, and I would sit on the front porch and we would talk with our eyes. She would talk to me through her eyes. And one of the things that I want to say is that I would be telling her all my stuff, and she would just sit there and listen and look at me. We did this every day. We had our little time. And one day I was sitting there and I was looking at her eyes, and all of a sudden she was talking to me. She was telling me she wasn't feeling well. I'm sick. But she didn't show any signs of being ill. And she was in her senior years, and her eyes said it all. When my husband came home, I said, we have to take Princess to the veterinarian. And he said, why? And I said, because she's sick. He said, how do you know that? I said, because she told me. He looked at me as if to say, what, are you nuts? And I said, she told me in her eyes. Her eyes told me. So we took her to the vet. And she was full of cancer. And so we had to say our goodbyes. But I hold that as a sacredness in my heart for her, because we were able to communicate. Now we rescued horses. I never had a horse in my life. And in 2001, I don't know, we ended up rescuing horses. So we had 4. I don't have a picture of our little Shetland pony, but I do have a picture of the 3 boys. And I hope you can see it. There are 3 guys there. This is Beethoven. This is Harley. And this is Yukon. And both of those boys, or all 3 of those boys, I should say, were quite the number. And I used to sing to them, and they taught me a lot. And so our animals can communicate with us. I'm not trying to discredit them when I talk about the evolution of people or the human race. And it's just that we are blessed and how wonderful our lives can be when we learn to operate in the consciousness of the Spirit, of the divine oneness, with our barriers down and our identity complete, and to be able to say, as our Jesus said, the Father and I are one. The oneness. Now, some of the things that I was going through in my studies and through things that, and I'm sure some of you have heard these sayings before, is that when we throw away our masks to reveal our soul, I had to do that. That was not easy. I flew under the radar for many, many years because I was in the corporate world. And when you're president of a multi-million-dollar corporation, you don't have to tell somebody you can see spirit and talk to them. They just think you're on the nuts. You're on the down road. So anyway, and as we're moving along and you take your masks off, you recognize you're at oneness. And this will cost you. It will cost you people. It will cost you relationships, spaces, and material things. But one thing I would like to share with you is choose your at oneness over everything. It's really important that you get within yourself and know your spirit and recognize it. Because when you meet somebody, you can say, hi, your heart and my heart are very old friends. When you feel that and you smile and you say, oh my goodness sakes, isn't this wonderful? Then we're going to talk about our roots, our deep. And there's no reason to fear. If your roots are deep and you embed and just bring them right into your spiritual world and grab a hold, it's the tree of life. And those roots take hold. And if you eliminate the fear and the misunderstandings, that no wind can destroy you. And you are your own healer. It is your courage to love yourself completely. Embrace your wounds. Those wounds were all lessons, as they were your sacred teachers. Sometimes we don't understand why this happened. But right here, right now, who and where you are supposed to be. And there is stardust in your eyes. There are so many things that we can take with us and move. We have a responsibility, I think, not just to ourselves, but when I think of this show, you think, okay, you are my teacher. When I sit back, I replay my shows and I listen and I think, oh, I'm the student here. I'm just here learning just like you. And every day is a bright and new day. Sometimes when you get that aha moment and things just start to fall together and you say, oh, this is so exciting. It is exciting to be in the spiritual realm. I'm not afraid of it. I love it. And I don't know, each of us are in a different age, age, whatever your age is, it doesn't matter. because we all come in at different levels. Some are infants, some are old. Doesn't matter, because our innate ability to recognize and love and let your light shine in the spiritual realm. We have so many things to be grateful for, and just say it every day. Just take some things out of and say, I am healthy, and believe that you are healthy. And if you need to say, I'm wealthy, and you are. It does not have to be monetary. It doesn't. And I'm wise. In my years, I am wise. I told my daughter the other day, I said, she called me, and the one that lives in Michigan, and she's freezing up there. And, and I'm saying, I'm so sorry. But I'm here, and it's nice and warm. It's cold, but it's not Michigan weather. And I told her those things, and I said, I want you to look in the each day. I want you to say those things, but I also want you to say what a beautiful soul you have, and how at peace. Ask for the peace of understanding of when you get something thrown in front of you. Don't panic. Just say, okay. Ask for the spiritual guidance that you need to get yourself there, and give yourself a hug every day, and love yourself every day. Life is what you make it. And I hope today that you will take the lesson of the consciousness and try and apply it to your life. I'm not sure just exactly. I think this is going to be a little bit of a series, because the journey of the soul can't be covered in a half an hour. And so I'm thinking that in February, we'll be talking about the spiral, the upward walk that we're going to take in the soul. So with that, I don't know if I'm at the top of the hour, but I think I'm pretty close. But, if you have any questions, I don't know how you can reach me through Star Nations, I guess. I'm not sure. I have series. Not just sure how I can do that. Neshi, can you help me do that?
Sure. Hi, Connie.
Hello, Neshi.
Hi, everybody. Yes, you can actually reach Connie through her fan page on Facebook, on the Spiritual Mysteries of Life fan page. And you can leave her questions there. You can send her a private message if you have something more private that you want to discuss with Connie. That would probably be the best one. You can reach Connie through Star Nation's website, the contact button. It might take a little while to get to her, but you could do that. I think the most direct route, Connie, would be for them to contact you through your Facebook page.
Okay, very good.
That's the Spiritual Mysteries of Life.
All right, very good.
Right.
And thank you.
Sure.
All righty. All right. And now we are, I think, almost at the top of the hour. And as I'm leaving you today, I'm sending you my blessings until the next time when we can meet again. And blessings be, everyone.